Hello, Professor. I believe this assignment took me a lot longer than was intended, but I have some output now that I feel pretty good about. So let's begin with the DFS. I believe this one averages about 20 seconds, and when I was first trying to implement it, it was typically really struggling to find the solution. So I've been really impressed with the average runs lately. It might have been more than 25 seconds, but it does perform poorly every once in a while, but typically it does really well, and especially since it was performing so poorly in the beginning, I've been really impressed with how quickly it's been finding the result lately. Although now that I brag about it, it's not doing very well. You can see I print out the current array. I had a lot of different methods of tracking all the different components, lots of different counters, and sometimes the most common is for me to look at the length of the array called visited. And if the visited array is going up in size, I know that at least it's not stuck. And I've had quite a few iterations where, I would try to get the program working and it would get stuck, and if I'm not printing out the right thing, I wouldn't realize that. So I even had it run so long to where the IDE struggled with memory before. Alright, let's do a rerun on this. Yeah, I think oh, there we go. That was a quick one. I think it's like 32. It's always some power of 2, like 32,000, whatever the actual size of the buffer is. Okay, so that number above goal reach, that's how many seconds the program was running. Sometimes it does get into kind of funky left up, right down patterns, but typically it breaks out of it pretty quickly. So I've, of course, included the times in the document, so let's move on. Okay, for whatever reason I can't. There we go. So UCS has been the worst one. On this one, I'm just printing the timer and over and over again rather than the array, because I printed the array so many times I went ahead and took that out, because I'm confident that it is visiting different spaces. Although I think some of those checks are still in there. They're just commented to make sure that array is actually changing in size. Well, it's an array of arrays. So I don't think I'm going to spend a lot of time on the UCS because, as I mentioned in my PDF document, it typically doesn't do very well. And I think it's supposed to do better than the DFS, so I guess perhaps my implementation is a bit weak, but I've already spent many weekends working on this project, and I need to move on to assignment 3, which is probably going to be all day the next few days. But I did learn a lot in this program, and maybe my Python was a little bit behind some of the other students. So I think I'm hopefully a little more caught up now, although I probably could have been a little more efficient with some of this program. Alright, let's move on to BFS. BFS is pretty strong, pretty good results on it. I guess we can pop over for a sec and see. Oh, I thought I had the PDF open. Well, it should find, I was just going to see the average, but it should find the result pretty quickly. Although this has a potential to take a long time to find the solution as well. It typically finds it, but every once in a while it doesn't. Okay, here is my table, and at BFS, if BFS typically finds it in 20 seconds, so 80 seconds here, no solution. That's not usually the case. And boom, finds it almost instantly the second time. Must have been a really good start state. 0.95 seconds, didn't even need a full second there. Let's try it again. There we go, that's a little more. I feel like that's probably what we're expecting. 6.3 seconds, that's probably, I mean, maybe better than we're expecting usually, but that was a good run. I don't know what values can we say we're actually expecting on these. But I guess the idea is to compare them, and it seems like the BFS is pretty good, probably better than DFS. And that is backed up by the higher average time. I thought it found the goal. So A star, printing out all the different Nielsen values there. I could probably comment that out, but it is kind of good to see what it finds the Nielsen value of each. It looks at the Nielsen value of each square at every time at each location that it currently is in. So you can see that when the value of one of those spaces is lower, it does become the new Nielsen value. And obviously that's what we want. And the 9999, of course, is for an invalid move. So I've, a lot of debugging on this one. I was struggling to find the solution, and for a long time I didn't realize that I wasn't finding the Manhattan solution the correct way. So if I had it to do over again, I think I would make a separate method called Manhattan and have that calculate the Manhattan value and just call that in A star as well as BFS, since it's used in both. Okay, that's not looking too good there. Let's restart this. Every once in a while, A star will get stuck too. But when I did my 5 runs for the averages, they were really good. Maybe that was an anomalous 5 runs there, because this is not looking quite as good so far. Okay, I went ahead and shut it down. Let's see what's happening here. So the current Nielsen value is 43. It looks at all the adjacent. The Nielsen value, if it goes left, is 40. So we would want the next Nielsen to be 40, and it is. So it looks like it's working down. And that was where I ended the program. Let's go up. So it was at 49, and it saw the adjacent 43, went left and became the 43. Or was that left? It was up. So here you can see the current Nielsen value is lower than all the others. and because of that, it didn't have any better move than the current situation, but it can't just sit there and not find the solution, so it's got to do something. So in that case, we do a random move. And we try to get only do, obviously we're only doing the random if it's if none of the current moves are better. So like here, 34, all the other states were worse, so it just picked one. So sometimes it gets close and can't find the value. Let's try to get a good run from it. So here it found the solution in 5.6 seconds. It has been not finding the solution a lot more than it had been in the first 5 runs. So I would have expected that it would perform better than all the others. Maybe because it's the last one we looked at. But it has more data points using both the clockwise calculations that it does and the distance. So maybe that formula is overcomplicating things a little bit somehow, or maybe my implementation is somehow not quite finding the ideal. It's definitely calculating the Nielsen value at each location and then jumping to the next one. Maybe something like allowing for backtracking, like was talked about in the slides. Maybe that would improve. Shut down that run, rebooted. Well, not rebooted, but reran in 18.13 seconds. That's probably pretty reasonable. Try one more time. Seems like if it doesn't find it pretty early, it's not finding it at all. When you see the Nielsen value working itself down, that's encouraging. But when it just sits up around the 50s like that, it's not. Definitely not. Yeah, I find it weird that this would perform worse than the BFS. Ooh, wow. It said it was at 50 and then it found the solution, so I guess what I just said was wrong. Okay, there we got at least one good solution on film there. 22 seconds. Okay, thank you.